Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he announced the Wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, was also an action by hand. He lifted Amir al-Mu'mineen and showed to the Muslims, look, what I am doing is on the Ghadir is an action. What I am talking about today is the action of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And nobody in the history can deny the power of this action. That finally somebody would sacrifice everything, including his body, including his children, including his family, including his friends, to protect the sanctity of Islam. That's all. When he left Medina, what he said? وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجَتُ لِي طَلَبِي فِي أُمَّةَ جَدِّي. Indeed, I am leaving Medina for my grandfather's reformation of my grandfather's religion. Reformation. There's something wrong. That's why he felt to reform. He felt a need to fixing something. If there is nothing wrong, why do you fix it? Logic. If everything would have been fine, then why Imam Hussain has said, I am leaving Medina, indeed, to reform my grandfather's Why? Because he felt there is a need for that. And that need continues in every decade. Even to date, there is a need for that. And therefore, when we look into the history of Imam Hussain, we must look at the history of Islam. When we look at the history of Imam Hussain, we must look at what happened and the global picture of Imam Hussein's religion. Imam Hussein's grandfather's religion. Because it is not only a matter for the followers of Ahlul Bayt, for Shi'as only. This is the message for entire mankind. I don't even count the entire Muslim body, but I say entire mankind. Because whenever a mankind in different religion have read about Imam Hussain, they said something about Imam Hussain. Christians, Jews, even Hindu, Sikhs, whenever they heard about Imam Hussain, they related to him. That this man was something who did a revolutionary act. An act which will last until the Yawm al-Qiyamah. An act like sacrificing on the day of Ashura is no mean task. If you look at the tragedy, whenever you hear the poetry, you cry. When you see the poets talk about the detailed words and they describe the whole thing. Now Imam Hussain, if you look at the mental aspect of how this tragedy of Karbala is affecting the people, two things happen. A mind of human being gets revolutionized, and then that leads to some action, i.e. the raising of the conscience. In these months of Muharram and Safar, what we do, we try to raise our conscience. We revive the zeal, the enthusiasm of the spirit of Islam. If we fail to do that and just pay attention to the ritual and get drowned in the rituality of the act, perhaps we are not doing the justice to the message of Imam Hussain. The emphasis should be the actual ultimate message of Imam Hussain. The emphasis should be the greatest gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to every human being is the aql, the brain. We don't realize we are so much grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us so many things. But do you realize what is the greatest thing He has given us, which we don't acknowledge sometime and we don't pay attention, is the brains. If you pay attention to your brains and you protect that, then you would be active by utilizing that brains into a direction of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message of Imam Hussain. And And with that, connected with that is your own self, i.e. your nafs. Then you start struggling with yourself first. I'm going to majalises, I'm going to listening to lectures from Hussain for what? What are my actions? What are my reality of life which is doing something practical towards that actions which he did in his lifetime? Then you get revolutionarized little bit. Then you start reforming yourself first, because that is the first stage. Before you take a bigger step of taking responsibility of reforming the entire Muslim Ummah. If you look in the today's condition, today's language, you try to talk to anybody, they said, who are you to talk about it? Who are you to tell me about Islam? What is your position? Are you minister? Are you somebody? You're not in position to tell me what is Islam. You're not in position to tell me who you are. So what we do? We refine ourselves first, so our actions, our deeds are clear, and then we go in the direction of proposing that, look, this is our Imam, he did in the history of this is our history, come and read, come and listen. And then you would know the reality behind these actions. The act of revolution starts from the Jihad al-Akbar, as we call it, the revolution within yourself. And that's what Imam Hussain wanted, to wake people up from the sleep, the deep slumber, the deep sleep when the human beings are sleeping. Your body is just eating, doing your job, doing your duty is just not enough. Raising your conscience is the ultimate message of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Those who realized, who raised their conscience, who did the revolutionary act, and who contributed to the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the message of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the message of Imam Hussain sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Salawat pardhe Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So I think practically if we can pay attention to just the message of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we will see the degree of stages of trouble he had.